Okay, Bob, so you're now streaming live, and I have made John your co host. Thank you. Have a great class.
Great. Got participants coming in. All right.
You just got done with the class, huh?
Alexa, turn down
This is
volume.
Renee.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. See some people's names I recognize here. Some of you might have had some classes from me before, looks like. So today we're going to be talking all about web browsers. We are live streaming. So for those of you who are watching via live streaming, you'll be able to watch the session as it goes on, but we encourage you to join us at Get Set Up and participate. It's a free account, free to set up, and you can join and learn about, take some of our classes and activities. So see a little bit later. This is mid-afternoon for me. I'm in Pacific time, so it's about 3 p.m. for me. I don't know whether it's 6 for anybody or later. Anybody have any later time zone they're in? Okay.
Eastern, 6 o'clock.
Eastern, 6 o'clock. Okay. All right. This is your dinner time class. Okay. I'm actually doing one more class after this in about an hour and a half on Live or Retire Abroad, the one that focuses on finances. So, but this is all about web browsers today. So we're going to be explaining web browsers. Okay, so there's a little bit of difference between explaining what something is and showing you how something works. And this class is a little bit more about explaining what something is and a little bit about how it works, but it's not really meant to show you how any one specific web browser works. It's meant to help you understand what web browsers are, what they do, and how the web works so that you understand when you use a web browser what the heck's going on and why it's working and behaving the way it is a little bit. We'll talk about some of the things that all web browsers have in common, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get started and share a few slides and think about some questions you have for web browsers, about web browsers and what they might mean and what they do. So a little bit about me. I'm in Seal Beach, as I mentioned. I'm here in the West Coast. I've worked in the tech industry. I actually owned an internet service company at one time and started teaching adults about technology in 2007 through community colleges, and then started doing it full-time and retired and kind of came back from retirement to try and help make technology a little bit easier to understand for people. And so with Get Set Up, I've been doing classes since January. We're a learning community, so we can see you and your cameras are on, hopefully. You can always request a recording after class at the help@getsetup.io. If you're joining by live stream, we do encourage you to participate and join us and register for a class. And we might be mentioning some specific products or services, and Get Set Up is not paid to promote anything, but we just offer information about things in order to help people learn about them. So today's agenda is sounds basic, but web browsers are really a very sophisticated piece of software. We're going to learn a little bit about what they are, okay? And we're going to talk about some common features across web browsers that make them easier, because there are some different web browsers. And we're going to talk about the differences between some of the browsers and why one may be better for you than another, and which one you might be using, or depending on what you want to use, what some of the things they do and why it might be a little bit easier to work with. So I'm just curious before we get on with things a little bit, and obviously, pause for questions, wave your hand, use the reaction button on your Zoom to raise your hand like I did. You can see I can raise my hand And that's another way to get my attention. Or put something in chat and we'll try and answer it too. Okay. So I'm just curious, how many of you know which web browser you use? Anybody know which one you're using? Okay. How many of you are using Chrome, the web browser called Chrome? Okay. Anybody using Safari? Okay. Anybody using Microsoft's Edge? Okay. Anybody using Firefox? Okay. Okay. So most people these days are using Chrome. There's pros and cons to every web browser, but they all do a lot of things in common, and it really doesn't matter which one you use. They'll all accomplish the same purpose, and we're going to talk about what they're meant to do. Okay. So let me explain what browsers are. Okay. So Renee, you've got your hand up.
I was wondering if Chrome is Google's Chrome.
Yes, they're made by Google. Yes.
Are they the same thing as just a Google browser?
Uh,
No?
Well, let me go into that in a little bit.
Okay, that's what I want to learn. Thank you.
That's a good question, and maybe
Yes.
I'll help you understand it. We'll see
Thank
how
you.
much success I have. Okay. Okay. So a web browser is a piece of software. It is a software application. Okay. And it runs on computers. It can run on smartphones. It can run on desktops and laptops and in other types of devices. But a web browser is a software application which has one purpose, primary purpose. It displays web pages on a device. So when you want to see a web page from anywhere on the internet, you see it by using your web browser on your computer. That's the purpose of a web browser. It opens up and displays web pages. It's similar to an application. Say you wanted to open up a spreadsheet on a computer. Well, you need an application that would open up a spreadsheet. Or you wanted to open up a picture, you need an application that can open up a picture. So web browsers are an application. And the thing that often confuses people is that a web browser is usually included with the operating system that comes with your device. And so when you get one on your device, you usually use the one that comes pre-installed, but you don't have to. There was actually a big antitrust lawsuit that Microsoft agreed to settle, where Microsoft at one time only allowed people to use the web browser that they included with Microsoft. And other companies, fought that, and then Microsoft had to allow other companies to allow people to install other web browsers. So you can use the one that comes with your device, or you can use a different one. So you have a choice now. Any questions about that so far? That's what a web browser does.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you use another web browser, does it delete the original, or is it just sort of override it? And can you switch back and forth between them?
It's like having it's just a second application on your computer to open up web pages. It doesn't delete what you already have.
Okay.
Okay. Doesn't do that.
How do you tell the computer which browser you want to use then?
Yeah, you can. That's done in the settings on your computer. You may get a message that pops up every once in a while, says that, like, this is not your default browser. Do you want to make it yours? You have to go into the settings on your device to change that sometimes. And so it's a little bit different on each device.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay. So anybody want to take a guess on what the difference is between a browser versus a search engine? Okay. You don't have to. Okay. But we're here to help explain it. A browser displays a web page. So a browser displays a web page like getsetup.io or apple.com or microsoft.com or any number of .coms, right? Or .edu or whatever, right? That's what a browser does. It displays web pages. A search engine finds things on the World Wide Web. Its job is to go find things for you. It's like, it's going to fetch things. So Google is a big company. Google is actually now owned by the company called Alphabet. That's their official name on the stock market. And google.com is a website that is run by Google that allows you to search the internet using Google search. Microsoft is probably the second most popular search engine. They run Yahoo search for Yahoo, and they run Bing for Bing search. Okay, so web browsers display web pages, search engines find things on the internet. Okay, and so there are actually two different functions that are taking place. But what happens is that this little search box right here does two things. It allows you to type in an address, but it almost always allows you to search for something as well. So your web browser may be pre-connected to a search engine automatically. So when you do a search in your web browser, you may be using a specific search engine and not even know which one you're using. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit more. So you're going to hopefully understand it and better than what we're just right now. So everything kind of builds on each other. Okay, so what is this thing called a web page? Web browsers open up web pages. They are files on computers that are kept out on the cloud on the internet. And they tell a web browser how to display a page. They tell the web browser where the photo should go, where the text should go, what things need to happen on the page. And all web page files are made up of what's called HTML. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And Hypertext Markup Language is an industry standard. Now, the computer industry and the technology industry sometimes comes up with standards. And the purpose of a standard is to make sure that everybody can use something the same way. It's like having an electrical outlet that you go and buy. Say you buy a coffee maker at an appliance store. You're pretty comfortable knowing that if you get that coffee maker home and you need to plug it into the wall outlet, the plug is going to fit, right? It's pretty rare that it doesn't, unless you go to Europe or somewhere else where they use just a different size outlet. But if you buy something in the United States and it plugs in the wall, it pretty much plugs in the wall, no matter what you use, right? No matter where you are. That's a standard for electrical power. Well, technology like the internet and the web uses standards too. And HTML is an industry standard. And all browsers can open up HTML files and display them. And the organization that makes the standard work is called the World Wide Web Consortium. It really exists, okay? It's a real organization. It's a nonprofit, but who belongs to it? Well, the companies you might expect: Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Mozilla, Netflix, some governments, and over 400 more organizations belong to this World Wide Web Consortium. They pay dues, they participate, and they get together and they set standards. What can we have on a web page? What should be displayed when it sees this? How should it work? And so that all web pages work pretty much the same way, and all web browsers pretty much work the same way too. Because it doesn't matter. You can open a web page on your phone, and you can open up on your computer, and you can open it up on a Mac, you can open it up on a Windows PC, because all of these things are standard. It doesn't matter whether the web page is in Spain or whether it's in India or whether it's in the United States. It opens up and you can use it. And having the standard made by the World Wide Web Consortium about web pages and browsers means that everybody can use the web, and that makes it better for everyone who wants to use the web. So there are real standards out there that are set, just like your electrical plug is set, has a standard for 110 volt. Your web browsers and your web pages have standards too. There are a lot of standards organizations, but this is the organization that runs pretty much the web. And so big companies have a lot of influence. They set the standards, but they don't set it by themselves. They set it together as an organization. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. So the major web browsers are these. Chrome is the name of the browser made by Google, and it comes installed on Chromebooks and Android phones. Okay. Edge is made by Microsoft, and it comes with Windows 10. Safari is made by Apple, and it comes with Macs, iPhones, and iPads. And Firefox is open source. It's actually the name of the organization is called Mozilla. It doesn't come pre-installed on anything, but it'll work on almost anything. It's one of the more popular non-manufactured. You see, Chrome, Edge, and Safari are all made by a company, okay, right? And the company that makes it includes it in their computers or operating systems they provide. So you can use the built-in one, okay? Browsing the web is so common that pretty much every electronic device comes with a built-in web browser. Any questions? If you think of one later, that's okay. Now, there are some common things that all web browsers do. They have, and we're going to take a look at a few of these in more detail. Not everything, because this is, to help you understand what web browsers are. Okay, they all have what's called a search and address field. They all use tabs. They all use bookmarks and favorites. They all have a reading mode. They all have an incognito or private browsing mode, and they all can save passwords. The World Wide Web Consortium makes them pretty standard, and some of them offer a few little extra features that work with the specific technology made by that company. So sometimes if you're using a particular technology, it's sometimes more advantageous to use the web browser that came with that technology, but depends on what you're doing and how you want to do things, because you are a technology integrator. When you bring in technology from Google and Microsoft and Apple and your internet service provider and your email account and all these things together, you have the job of making sure everything works together. And so it's easier if you tend to use fewer things, but you can still get the job done with anything. Good question, Christina. Incognito or private browsing mode turns off tracking by cookies. We'll talk a little bit about what cookies do, but it turns off tracking so that if you don't want any history of what you are doing on your web browsing to be tracked or kept in your browser history, you can turn on private browsing. Okay, let's talk about a few of these things. Okay, there's web browsers are really sophisticated applications. They can do a lot of things that we don't really even bother touching, but they're really, really good. And so we're not going to learn everything about them, but we're going to learn a lot of things. Okay, the first thing is this search field, and it's called a search/address field because it does two things. You can enter a word or a phrase to search, which means if you just enter it in here and hit enter or click on the magnifying glass, your web browser will send something out to a search engine, either Google or Bing usually, and it will search the internet for you. Okay, so some web browsers like Chrome automatically uses Google for search. Edge, which is made by Microsoft and comes on Windows 10 computers, automatically uses Bing for search. Safari is made by Apple. So you may say, well, Safari must use Apple for search. Well, it doesn't. Google actually pays Apple a lot of money so that when you use Safari and search for things using the Safari browser, it uses Google search. And the reason is that the results that come back from the search are what are displayed by the web page. And so Safari, Apple takes money from Google to make sure to include Google search as the default setting for your search engine when you type in a search term in Safari. So even though you're using an Apple product, Safari, you're actually using Google search when you search the internet. The other thing you can do in this field is you can type in an address like getsetup.io or apple.com or google.com. Okay, so those are all things you do. When you type in the address and you hit go, the web browser will go to that specific address. So you can type in a search term or you can type in an address. It's a multi-purpose field. Shirley has a question in chat. Is Bing a safe search? Is Bing a safe search engine? Sorry about that. Yes, it is. Google, Chrome, and Safari and are all safe from a safety and security standpoint. We'll talk a little bit about privacy, which is a different issue. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on privacy, but there's safety and security. Like if you're walking down the street, are you safe? Well, yeah, but do people know where you're going? That's privacy. Okay, so there's a little bit difference between safety and privacy on the internet. And people often don't know which is the difference. Okay, so there are a couple of features in common across web pages. I'm displaying my slide in a browser here, and you can see I've got a tab open here. But if I click on the plus sign, I can open up a new tab, but I could go to Get Set Up, and then I can switch back and forth between two tabs here if I want to. I can open another tab up. I could say, I know Apple had some announcements today, so I'm not sure what they announced, but let's see what they have. They announced a new iMac, an iPad Pro, an iPhone 12 in purple, AirTag, and Apple TV 4K. Okay, so they had an announcement event. So these are tabs in the browser. They're like file folder tabs in a file cabinet. They're tabs, okay? And why would you want to use them? Well, it makes it very easy. If I want to switch from the slide to the Apple website, I can just click on a different tab and just switch very quickly back and forth between tabs. Just makes it easy to have your browser open. And before they had tabs, you could only have one web page open in a web browser at a time. Now they have tabs. So all web browsers give you the ability to add tabs. It's part of the web standard. So it's something they all do.
Bob, how do you set up that all about web browser?
To set up, Josie, could you repeat that again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
How did you set up that all about web browser?
Oh,
Then you added that.
okay. This is a tab for my Google Slides that I'm showing.
Oh, okay.
So that's not a website. This actual link is to where my Google Slides are kept on Get Set Up. But because it's so convenient to just use the browser here, I just kept it open. So I can go to Apple, I can go to Microsoft. So whatever I want to do, I can type in information and
Thank
it'll
you.
go there, right? So this is the search results I get. Okay, so but I can go and switch between different tabs. And the name of the tab will be the name of the website you are on automatically. So if I go to Apple or Microsoft, you can see the name is in the tab here. This is just my slide presentation, so it's what shows in the tab here.
Okay.
Now, bookmarks. Bookmarks are a way to find a web page quickly. Just like you put a bookmark in a real book, you can put a bookmark in a web browser. Chrome and Edge use the same tools to save a bookmark. If you look here at I'm going to draw a circle around it, make it easier for you to see. So if you look here in the upper right, there's a star. If I wanted to bookmark this page, I would click on the star, and then my menu at the top of my screen, which isn't being shared right now, but my menu at the top of the screen gives me the ability to access my bookmarks list. And sometimes you'll actually see the bookmarks in a star here also, but that's how you save a bookmark. In Safari, it works a little bit different. So this is where you get into subtle differences between web browsers and why each web browser kind of needs its own class, because there's ways to use Chrome, there's ways to use Edge, there's ways to use Safari. Okay, and so Safari doesn't use the star symbol, it uses this share icon. Okay, and when you want to bookmark a web page in Safari, you click on this icon, and then you can save it as a bookmark. And then when you want to see your bookmarks, you hit this funny little tab, a little button that looks like a page view, a side view, and it shows you a list of your bookmarks on the desktop. Mobile apps, mobile web browsers look a little bit different. And so there's a little bit of learning curve between browsers on a desktop versus browsers on a smartphone, because they work a little bit differently. But that's what bookmarks do. They give you ability to find web pages you visit frequently. Now, this is not a test, but it's a guessing game. And the idea is, this is a screenshot I took of the Get Set Up web page on Chrome, on Safari, and on Edge, because you can install all of them on an iPhone. Okay, they all will work on an iPhone. So you can see the actual web page itself looks virtually identical, right? There's not a lot of difference in how the web page looks. What's different are the little navigation tools. Okay, they all have a search and address bar at the top that displays the web page. But at the bottom, they have a little bit different icons between them. And that's what makes it simpler or more difficult to switch between web browsers. If you are a Mac user, sometimes it's easier to use Safari on your Mac and Safari on your iPhone, because you just learn how it works. You learn what the icons mean. It's like learning to drive. You know what a stop sign means. You know what a green light means. You know what a yellow light means. You know what a red light means. But let's say you went to a different planet and they used purple for go and chartreuse for stop. You know, you'd have to learn it all over again, right? So people typically will find that using the same browser, but you can see they all have a little bit different information. I don't know if anybody wants to take a guess. Anybody want to try guessing? You know, because it's kind of a challenge to figure these out. They look so similar. And the reason they look so similar is because they all rely on standards set by the World Wide Web Consortium. They can't be that different because of the standards that are out there.
You see Safari?
C is definitely Safari. That's a good one. Who guessed that?
Renee, I have a,
Renee, great. Yeah, C is Safari. A and B are a little tougher to tell the difference between, aren't they?
Is A Edge?
I'm trying to, A is Edge, yes. A is Edge and B is Chrome, I think. Yeah, because I was logged into Chrome. That's why I have my little profile picture here. So there, so I'm not sure. A is Chrome. John's saying I'm wrong. See, even I get it wrong. John says A is Chrome. So A is Chrome, B is Edge, and C. So you see, they all do the same thing. So is there a lot of differences? Thanks, John. Okay. Okay, so always good to have a teaching assistant on here, because I put the slide together and I said, which is Chrome and which is Edge? I forgot. Well, I think because I use Edge and I log in with Microsoft Live, that might be why I'm logged in there.
Here, Kiran, when you open the browser.
So, but they display the web pages now. What's different is a little bit here. So if I wanted to access some options, I would tap the three dots, and that would give me the ability to access options, to save things. This tabs look like this on mobile devices. You might see a number here in Chrome and in Edge, and you might see this little image in Safari that actually tells you you've got browsers. So but they're all pretty much the same. It's really kind of an interesting, observation when you look at it, is that what's the advantage of one browser over another? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. And to talk about that a little bit, we want to make sure we understand security and cookies. They're all secure. The World Wide Web Consortium, the standard setting body, has set a standard for a website that is secure and encrypted. When you notice a little lock, like on this website I'm looking at right now, you can see it's really, really small, but you can see there's a lock right here next to the address. If I go to Apple, there's a lock. If I go to Microsoft, there's a lock. These websites are secure and encrypted, meaning that all the information you send from your computer or your smartphone or your tablet out to the internet is encrypted, which means that unless somebody has the code to break it, which they don't, it would take them like 50 years to crack that information. So it's safe for credit cards, Social Security websites encrypted, all of those things are encrypted, okay? And Google will rank, if you do a search on Google, and I think Bing does it too now, secure websites rank higher in search results. So that's security. Cookies have more to do with privacy. Now, I know that when you used Google search back about 6 years ago, you read the privacy statement that they published on their website, google.com, and you agreed to their contracted terms and conditions. Everybody read that, right? Okay, and nobody reads it, unfortunately. But what's happened is that we are giving our data to websites and companies in exchange for free use of their tools and services. Doesn't cost you anything to use Google for search, does it? Or Bing. You don't pay them for searching. It's not like you have to put a quarter in every time you do that. So before I get into cookies, let's see, Christine had a question. The S means secure. If a website is not secure, it will not display the lock. The lock is usually used as a symbol automatically. And you can see in mine that I have open here, I've displayed the full address. And you can see it's got HTTPS because it's a secure site. Sometimes you don't see the full information on the website. Like if we go to Apple, that displays it as, I have my browser set up so that it displays the full address. HTTPS means secure and encrypted. Okay. Cookie. A cookie is a piece of alphanumeric information, some numbers and letters, and it's deposited in your browser by a website that wants to give you a cookie. Okay, so many websites some will tell you we use cookies, some may not tell you. And in California, it's a law, websites are required to tell you they use cookies, but that's not true in every state. So what is a cookie? A cookie is a piece of data that is kept in your web browser that can be used to track when you visit websites. Okay, so it's a tracking tool, and it is used to track your history. Doesn't contain any personal information by itself, but it keeps track of what web pages you visit so that advertisers primarily can choose to display ads they might think you find relevant. So I don't know if this has ever happened to you or something similar. I was looking for some bicycle jackets at REI because I like to do road biking, and I needed to get one. And I was looking at the jackets, and I got interrupted by a phone call. And so I went off to do the phone call and closed my computer. And then I came back and I opened up my web browser, and I went looking for places to go out to dinner or something. And I noticed this ad pops up for this jacket that I was looking at REI. And so, how did they know that? Well, Google uses a tracking cookie, in your web browser, but pretty much everybody does. Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, a little bit less so. But pretty much any website you visit is going to use a cookie that's used by the advertiser to help keep track of you and what websites you visit and what you look at different web pages. It doesn't send any personal information to the website. It just lets the website know, oh, this is your web browser. So it can keep track of things like automatically logging you in if you want to. Yeah, Renee.
I noticed that when I was looking up somebody else's medical problem, and I looked it up on my secure website, and it came back. Now I'm getting all these advertisements for heart attacks and stuff.
Yep. There's a difference. Security does not.
That's not secure.
No, it's privacy. It's privacy, right? It's not security. Secure, like I say, security is feeling safe walking down the street. Privacy is whether people are watching you or not, right? And so people might know you're there, but you're perfectly safe. So it's security is secure. Privacy is whether you want people knowing what it is you're up to, right?
How do we avoid?
Yeah, and you'll be surprised how much privacy we've given up. We'll talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I thought it was more secure on the medical websites, but I guess not.
Well, it's not a matter of security. It's a matter of privacy.
Yes, more private.
Privacy. Right. So your data is secure. Because of HIPAA regulations, like that's why your doctor can't send you an email with any medical information. They have to send you a link to a website. You have to log into that website, and then you can access the correspondence because of HIPAA regulations on medical privacy. But the fact that you visited the website is something your cookie would track. Okay, what you actually looked at might not be. Okay.
It was.
It is.
Thank
It
you.
is. Yeah, it is. It's interesting how much companies, and this is all Google and Microsoft and Amazon, and they just know everything about us now. Okay, so the major web browsers, part 2. What comes with what, and where does it work? Okay, Firefox, which is made by Mozilla, is available for installation on Windows. Sorry about that. Windows, Macs, iPhones, iPads, Android, and Chromebooks. Firefox is not owned by any company. It's done by a consortium of volunteers that contribute to it. So it's not owned by any company, and it's not operated by any company. It's operated by a nonprofit. Safari works on Macs and iPhones, but nothing else. You cannot get Safari on Windows, Android, and Chromebook. And this is kind of part of Apple's strategy, is that you may own a Windows computer, which most people do, but you may have bought an iPhone as a smartphone. And so Apple does things to try and encourage you to make your next computer a Mac. Okay, and so one of those things is they get you used to using Safari, and you discover, gee, Safari doesn't work on Windows. Maybe I should think about switching to a Mac, right? You start to think about that. It's a very effective strategy, very effective strategies, but it's Apple is a company that is owned by stockholders, and its job is to make a profit for those stockholders. So can't blame them for doing it, right? But they do let you install Chrome or Edge or Firefox on any of their devices. So they don't prevent you from installing something else. But they do make it, they do have some interesting little tools that try and make it better for a better experience if you use Safari. So if you're using Safari on your phone and you come and sit down at your desk, your Mac will recognize, oh, you have this web page open on your phone. Here's a button you can press to open up that web page right away. It's called, the feature is called continuity. So that people that use Macs and iPhones tend to use Safari because of that, but not always. Edge comes standard with Windows 10, and it's built in, and it's when you use the search box on the Windows 10 desktop, it will search using Edge and Bing. And it also works on Macs and iPhones and Android, and but it doesn't work on Chromebooks. So a lot of people that are Microsoft centric in terms of what they do, some will use Edge. Now, Internet Explorer, which is Microsoft's old browser, is no longer supported, and it's not secure to use. You should not be using it anymore. But Edge is modern. Now, what's kind of interesting is that Microsoft actually buys technology from Google to make Edge work. So there's a lot of trading between these companies. Safari actually buys technology from Google to make Edge work. They why bother building our own? We'll just buy it. It's like, buying a house versus renting an apartment, or paying for something that you want, buying a car versus renting a car or leasing a car. Sometimes it's just easier to buy it from somebody else than make it yourself. And so Google's done a very good job of making technology. They're part of the standards. So Microsoft just buys some of the underlying technology, and they build some things for Edge on top of it that are unique to Edge. And then Chrome works across everything. Now, a privacy issue you may not know about when you use Chrome. You may see on my screen here my little profile picture up here. Whenever you use Chrome as a browser and you have a Google account, Google automatically logs you in to your Google account. So it not only knows what you're doing by cookies, it also knows what websites you're visiting because you are logged in to your Google account while you're browsing the web. And so there's a privacy concern that can be an issue for people if they're concerned about it. So Google not only knows it's your web browser, they know it's you that's browsing the web when you're using Google Chrome. So that's one of the disadvantages of Chrome from a privacy standpoint to be aware of. Okay, what do you choose?
Privacy off?
I'm sorry, Nancy, what was that?
You can't take the privacy off?
You can log out of your Google account, yes, or you can use what's called the incognito or private mode.
What's that?
What is
You have
that?
to switch to it every time you open up your web browser. And a lot of people just forget to do that.
Where is that?
I'm going to see if we can show you that. I think we may have time, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, because what we're thinking about doing, when I talked with, I don't know if any of you taken any classes from Wade on Get Set Up, but Wade and I were talking about the fact that a lot of people just needed to understand what web browsers were in the first place. And then we said, rather than starting off with classes on Chrome and Edge or Safari, because they all really are different, and you would want to do a class on each one separately, as opposed to, oh, here's how to use a web browser, because it's going to work differently for Chrome or Edge or Safari. And so you would use them differently. Oh, John, thank you. He says John has posted something in chat, some instructions for us. Very helpful, John. Thank you. That's why it's so great to have a teaching assistant on these calls, because questions come up that they can go figure out the option. Okay. So John says if you're on a laptop or a PC, you can enter incognito mode by pressing Control, Shift, and the keys Control, Shift, and Add. Or open Chrome and press the three dots in the right corner. So if I go over here on my Chrome, you can see my screen here. If I press these three dots, I click on that, then I can open what's called a new incognito window. Okay, so look for the three dots in the upper right corner, and then, but every time you open Chrome, you're going to have to do that. Okay.
I noticed that.
Are the three dots sort of a symbol for additional information? Because we, of course, have them on Zoom, the three dots.
Mhm.
Yes, Laura, you have figured out the secret to the three dots.
Okay, yeah,
Yes,
just
the
different
three
positions.
dots. If the other word that's used for three dots is called more, M-O-R-E.
Yeah.
Whenever you see, I mean, there's a lot of little navigation tools on technology that are starting to look the same, like a lock means something secure, right? Or a magnifying glass means that you're searching for something, right?
Mhm.
A gear means that you're going to be able to make changes in certain things. And dots, three dots, you find them on phones. If we go back to
What are you supposed
my
to do?
mobile view, you can see
Yes.
here's
Mhm.
three dots. Here's three dots. Safari doesn't use three dots for anything here. But that's a navigation tool wherever you see three dots. The other thing you may see, if you see a little arrow pointing one way, up, down, sideways, to the right, that means you can expand information that whenever you see a little arrow. So these are like learning the road signs of
Yes,
nations,
sign language.
It's like, even if you didn't know if it was red and said stop on it, if you saw an 8-sided sign, like on a DMV test, you'd know that means stop. A triangle means yield, right? Yellow is warning, red is stop. These are things that, and fortunately, more computer companies are starting to use common symbols, but not all of them do. Okay, so why would you bother choosing one web browser over another? Well, the reason is that if you use one web browser on all of your devices, you can synchronize information. You can synchronize information like bookmarks or reading lists, and some, people keep their passwords in their web browsers. And so if you're using Edge on your Windows desktop and you use Edge on your smartphone, you can keep out all the information like that in sync and not have to go searching for it. Or there's not very much difference in terms of performance, but sometimes there's a few little features, like if you like being logged into Google all the time when you're using Chrome, because you use Gmail a lot or other things, then, Google Chrome might be a good solution for you. But if you tend to use your Windows desktop more and you want to use the search function that's on the taskbar in your desktop, then Edge or Bing might make more sense. Or if you're a Mac user using an iPad, using Safari might make more sense. But they'll all work. It's just the little subtleties that are different. Okay, Nancy, you got your hand up.
Yes, when I use Google Photos, can they see what I'm doing there? In other words, if I hit the three dots, they won't see what I'm doing, or they can see what I'm doing in there.
Google
My photos?
Google will not necessarily, they don't scan your photos. Their privacy says they don't actually access your photos to see what's in the photos. But in Gmail, Google does read your mail. They don't have a person reading it, but they scan it for what they call keywords, so that if you're writing an email about traveling to Spain, I have a son that lives in Spain and I can't get there, but if I write him an email about, gee, I'd really like to get into Spain soon, when are we going to be able to travel? Google, if I did it in Gmail, Google would know that I wrote about traveling to Spain, and they might use it to show me an ad about travel to Spain.
That's creepy.
It is, isn't it? But are you paying for Gmail?
No, but let me share this with you, what my son says, and he works for one of these companies, and I'm not going to say which one. He said, Mom, if it's free, you're the product.
Exactly. We are giving, the companies have figured out how to make money from our activity on the internet through advertising, right? That's how they make money. And they make a lot of money out of Facebook. Apple kind of does it a little bit less than other people, but they still keep track of things. They have to make a profit somehow, and so they make a profit by collecting information. Now they don't sell. Now, if you look at the European Union, they have privacy policies that give people the right to have their information deleted. So we don't do that in the US though.
Yet.
We'll see, right? There's a lot of congressional hearings going on starting about that. Yeah, Nancy, go ahead.
How does Facebook know everything you're doing?
How does Facebook know
They
everything?
know about you, because whenever you do those things, they know exactly, they're always freaking me out.
Well, Facebook's in the business of collecting as much information about people that use Facebook as possible. That's their business. They said, okay, we're not going to charge anybody for using Facebook. We're not, so you don't pay for using Facebook, do you?
No.
Okay. But in return, what Facebook asked you was to accept their terms and conditions of use.
Yeah.
And basically you said, I'm okay with letting you know everything I do on the web.
Therefore, you're the product.
You are and Facebook collects all that data, and then they collect it from you, from me, from everyone else that uses Facebook. And they say to advertisers, hey, if you want to reach people that do this, or like to travel, or that take cruises, or that visit these websites, or have these interests, we can give you the ability to target your ads directly to those people if you want to.
Yeah, but when I'm playing a game on there, they know exactly all about me.
That's exactly right. Right. Yep.
if I'm saying something like.
Bob, I would like to know,
I'm going to put a
Hotmail
box
is
there.
safe?
Hold on a second. I've got some
They don't
chat
like
going
the
on here.
conversation.
Who had the question? Josie, is that it?
No, Susanna?
Susanna. Okay, sorry, Susanna. Go
That's
ahead.
quite all right. I would like to know, Hotmail is safe? Is safer than Gmail?
Is it free?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I haven't read Hotmail's terms and conditions, but it's owned by Microsoft. And Microsoft makes money from Bing advertising. So I would suspect that they might, scan your mail, but I can't say for sure. I don't know.
Thank you.
I
Okay.
think Hotmail is going away or gone away, and they've changed it to Outlook.
They've changed it to Outlook Mail, but it's still,
Yeah, it is the same, yes. Outlook and Hotmail is the same, yes.
but I don't know. I mean, I would recommend you read the terms and conditions. It's like you're supposed, I mean, we're all brought up, you're supposed to read contracts when you sign them, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but they are so long.
Okay,
It's so long.
Let me
forget
get
it.
Nancy's question here. She's had her hand up patiently. Go ahead, Nancy.
No, didn't I put my hand down?
Oh, that's okay. We wanted to make sure. John and I we saw your hand and we want to make sure. Now it's up. I lowered it for you.
Bob, how about Yahoo?
Hit the wrong thing, I'm sorry.
No problem. What about Yahoo?
Yeah, who that belong to?
Yahoo is owned by Yahoo,
Mm.
but it's a free service, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
What did Laura say?
So if it's free, they're probably collecting information about you. Okay.
yeah,
So-
okay.
So we have basically, I mean, we've given up privacy on the internet in exchange for free service.
Free service.
So Get Set Up is also doing it then.
Get Set Up doesn't sell your information to anybody. We don't do that.
Yes,
But
that's what you said.
you might have a requirement to have a cookie. Yeah. Laura, did you have something you wanted?
Yes, I had a question. I've noticed that companies are now asking you to be a member of their Facebook account. Now, the question is, I have an account for years and I don't really use it much. So, but I'm guessing that if I say to them, yes, I want to be on your Facebook account, they're automatically on mine also.
Yes.
And if they're on mine also, couldn't they scan or have a computer that would scan that information the same way that Google does?
Are they asking you to be on their account or to like their page or?
They're asking me to like their page, and if you
Oh,
like their Facebook, doesn't that mean you're part of it?
No, if you like their page, you are indicating that you want to stay connected to them through Facebook.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're
They
connected to them
They
through
can't
Facebook,
contact you directly when you like their
Bob
page.
has to have it
They
too,
can't
right?
contact you directly,
Check
and
this out.
they are only Facebook and other people that you share information with would know you like that page, but they can't communicate with you directly.
okay, I just wondered. I've never done it because it creeps me
No.
out. No,
It's not as, I mean, Facebook is tracking. So, I mean, obviously, let's say you liked, Toyota's page on Facebook. If Honda wanted to advertise to people that like Toyota, they could do that, but they wouldn't be able to reach you directly, and neither can Toyota. Okay, so
okay, they
Facebook-
wouldn't be showing up on my Facebook.
they would have to become a friend, which
Okay.
is the
They'd
Facebook.
have to ask me that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so you know a little bit more about web browsers now. And the internet's a great service and things we want to be able to use. Let me wrap up a few slides, then I'll take a few questions if we still have them. There are some other classes. I encourage you to learn about the shared drive services. We have classes on OneDrive, Google Drive,
Oh.
iCloud, Zoom. If you think you'd like to see a class about Chrome or using web browsers more specific and more detailed, let us know. We're always looking for good ideas on classes and other things. You're going to get some copies of class notes and some information as a follow-up. Give us some feedback and let us know about things you're doing. And you can also, there's some new tools out there that let you share, share with a friend and invite friends to classes as well. And you can request a recording at help@getsetup.io. So thank you. I'll see if there's any.
I have one more quick question.
Yeah, Laura.
On the what is it, video that we get from HelpNet, how long is that on there? I mean, I've been taking 3 and 4 and 5 classes a day, so I don't read that, but I put it in a file. And so can I go back in 5
John,
days and read it?
Maybe John knows. John, do you know how long we keep the recordings by any
Not
chance?
too long.
Not too long. Okay, maybe
No.
a week. A week at the most, you think?
I think it's only about probably 3-4 days. That's about it.
Okay.
Because I have tried and they said it's already, it's not
Oh.
available. So,
Okay.
Okay.
hey, Bob, is that possibility of you making like a 2 classes on this? Because we have a lot of questions and stuff. Not enough time.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree. I'll be back.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great, great. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very quiet.